Perhaps you don't have time to read the Stormlight Archive. Perhaps you simply need a recap. Either way, Bright Lord, rejoice, and let's prepare our mind, our body, and our soul for the most accurate and articulate recap of the Way of Kings that has ever been done. We open on a giant rock monster thing that has just been slayed. 10 guys, 10 swords, they all retire. Welcome to Roshar, where everything's a crab and the weather is bad. Allow me to introduce Seth, Sun Volano, Truthless of Shinovar, and he's wearing white. Why? Because he's here to kill a king. After snorting some stormlight, slaying a few guards, he is successful in slaying King Gavilar. This incites a war between Alethkar and the Parshendi. It is my pleasure to introduce Roshar's hottest and saddest slave, Kaladin Stormblessed, who's branded as a dangerous criminal for slaying a Light Eyes, and he's being harassed by a pesky little windspren. Next, we meet the ginger artist Shallan Davar, who is stalking Yasna Kholin, the daughter of that assassinated king from the beginning. She's hoping to get an internship. Just kidding, she's not. She's hoping to rob Yasna. Kaladin is then sold to High Prince Sadeas on the Shattered Plains, where he is forced to join Bridge 4, which actually turns out to be a really fun and safe time. Yasna agrees to take on Shallan as a reward. In a flashback, we learn that Kaladin has medical training because his father was training him to become a surgeon. But even as a wee lad, Kaladin had a primal, almost sexual attraction to the spear. Kaladin is having such a blast as a bridge boy that he wants to take his own life, but still that pesky windspren literally talks him off the edge. Then Kaladin decides that he's going to become cheer captain of Bridge 4. This is where things begin to heat up because we meet the Blackthorn, Daddy Dalinar Kholin and his son Adolin Kholin, who are on a chasm fiend hunt with the new king, King Elhokar. King Elhokar, in the middle of the hunt, his saddle strap snaps. He goes flying. The chasm fiend's closing on him. The Blackthorn rushes to him, saves him. Him and Adolin chop it up with their shard blade. Meanwhile, Kaladin decides he's going to get absolutely shredded. None of the other bridge boys want to participate, but Syl seems to be regaining her memories. King Elhokar won't stop bitching about the saddle strap, so Dalinar and Adolin are forced to investigate who possibly cut the strap. Flashback, Kaladin's father is gifted a large amount of spheres, maybe enough to send him off to med school. Kaladin tries his best to improve the lives of the other bridgemen, and he eventually wins over Rock and Teft. King Elhokar continues to be the dumbest boy in school, and he promotes High Prince Sadeas to High Prince of Information because he no longer trusts Dalinar. Dalinar is pursuing this idea of unifying all 10 princedoms in Alethkar while reading this book, The Way of Kings. But Adolin fears that Daddy is losing his edge. Flashback, little Kaladin's hometown receives a new city lord named Roshar. He seems like a really nice guy. Kaladin and the rest of Bridge 4 are all assigned chasm duty, where Kaladin impresses all the lads down in the chasm by spinning his spear. He and Rock decide they're going to win over everyone with the power of stew. Dalinar is considering stepping down as High Prince because maybe everyone's right. Maybe he is losing his mind because he is really into his late brother's wife, which is Icky. Back to Shallan, she's really enjoying training under Yasna, and she's subconsciously drawing some very spooky things. Soon, all the men in Bridge 4 are participating in Kaladin's training, and they're even learning a few new maneuvers to hopefully keep them alive on bridge runs. Kaladin recruits a one-armed man with a ton of cousins to join Bridge 4, and that day they attempt the side carry maneuver, which works beautifully. Bridge 4 doesn't lose a single man, but no longer drawing the enemy's arrows, the Parshendi forces take their sights on High Prince Sadeas' army, and Alethkar's forces get their butts kicked. The bridgemen are essentially supposed to die. They're used as targets. The Light Eyes are furious at Kaladin, and after a brutal beating, he is taken into custody. Meanwhile, Shallan gets the hots for this monk who likes to make jelly, and she's still trying to figure out a way to steal Yasna's power source, an item called a Soulcaster. Kaladin's superiors string him up on the storm wall to die in the high storm, but the lads give him a sphere for good luck. Syl does her best to fight off the storm. She stays by Kaladin the whole time. It's very cute, and then Kaladin sees the Stormfather's face. The moment the storm's over, Rock and Teft hurry out and are shocked to see that Kaladin's still alive. The sphere Kaladin was holding is done. It should have been recharged in the storm. But who cares? That's probably not important anyways. Shallan's in turmoil. She no longer wants to steal from Yasna, but she needs the Soulcaster to help pay her family's debts. But one night they're attacked by 4 criminals, and Yasna is all too happy to use the Soulcaster to smite them into oblivion. In this, Shallan loses respect for Yasna and swaps her family's broken Soulcaster for Yasna's good one. Kaladin's now on the verge of death because of the high storm, but Teft brings him 3 unused spheres, and as Teft suspected, Kaladin snorts in that sweet stormlight and is healing at an unnatural rate. Shallan can't figure out how to use the Soulcaster, but she feels like it'll be too obvious as she runs away now, and she still has a huge crush on the monk that makes jelly. After 10 days, Kaladin is returned to Bridge 4, and he's surprised to see that the men have upheld their training. They're all getting frickin' shredded. Still injured, he has to sit back and watch the next bridge run, and he realizes that High Prince Sadeas is just using them as bait. They are destined to die. Flashback, Kaladin and his father are trying to save Roshar, the City Lord, and his son, who are just attacked by a white spine. They're unable to save the City Lord's son. While Rock is giving everyone haircuts, Kaladin continues his battle with depression. But alas, Kaladin continues to train his men down in the chasm in secret. They're hoping to fight their way to freedom. Flashback to younger Kaladin, Bright Lord Amaran has arrived at his hometown and he's recruiting men for his army. The City Lord is furious with Kaladin's father for not saving his son, so in an attempt to get revenge, he forces Kaladin's younger brother Tien, the sweetest little cinnamon roll that's ever been in literature, to join Lord Amaram's army. Kaladin steps forward and says, I volunteer as tribute, I'll take his place. But the City Lord refuses the offer, saying Tien must be the one to go. Kaladin volunteers regardless and says, I will go and I will protect my brother and I will bring him home. Shallan discovers that Yasna has been secretly studying Voidbringers, a Dark Eyes fairy tale, and she decides to help her, but her monk boyfriend that loves to make jelly begs her just drop it, leave it alone. Shallan's like, hey, I'm still getting out of here, so she's like, let me draw you one more time, but then this figure with this elaborate shape for a head appears on her drawing and it totally freaks her out. Then she thinks she's starting to see these things in real life. In an effort to escape these scary pattern-faced creatures, she soulcasts and then she finds herself in a whole new world, a world with a black sky and a sea of tiny black marbles. Somehow, she uses one of those little black beads to turn a goblet into blood. Now she's back in her room, Yasna bursts in and finds her in a pool of blood. Kaladin has a dream that he is the High Storm himself, and he flies all over Roshar and he sees that assassin in white standing over some bodies. Then a big scary voice tells him,
Child of Honor, the Oath Pact has been broken.
But he has no idea what's happening, and neither do we. Moash, one of the members of Bridge 4, has finally agreed to join Kaladin's training, and he's like, let's take down the Light Eyes. He seems like a really nice, trustworthy guy, and I'm sure there'll be no repercussions from training him. Gaz, who's Kaladin's supervisor and a real dick, gives Kaladin a new member, and it's a parchment. Walking through the war camp, Kaladin sees a woman being mistreated, and he's about to step in and save her, but then Adolin Kholin steps up and helps her. Flashback. Kaladin's been in Lord Amaram's army for 4 years and made quite the name for himself. In the midst of a battle, a warrior in full golden shard plate breaks through Amaran's lines. He's slaying people left and right. He's making his way to Lord Amaran himself. Kaladin does the unthinkable and defeats the shardbearer with a spearhead through the little face hole, gets him right in the eyeball. But to everyone's surprise, Kaladin refuses to take the shard plates, which are now rightfully his, and he says he's leaving them to his men. Back in present day, everyone thinks that Shallan cracked under the pressure of Yasna's tutelage and tried to take her own life, and Yasna is being surprisingly compassionate. Shallan's monk boyfriend, who likes to make jam, shows up to the hospital, but he won't shut up until everyone has some bread and some jam, and he's being super annoying. Turns out he's poisoned the bread, and Shallan has to reveal that she's stolen the soulcaster from Yasna because she thinks Yasna will need it to heal her. Kaladin continues to train the lads of Bridge 4 into SEAL Team 6. Shallan is forced to come clean, and Yasna explains that the monk was never really into her, he was just using her, and now she's getting shipped off to a place called Yakavet. Flashback, Kaladin's just defeated that shardbearer, and he's explaining that all the shard plates will go to his best man, Korb, who, according to legend, will become a Light Eyes himself. But Lord Amaran, who Kaladin just saved, comes in, he has Korb and all of Kaladin's men killed so that he can take the shard plates himself. Amaram then brands Kaladin as a slave and he calls it mercy. We're strapping Daddy Dalinar down to a chair because he's having some crazy visions during the storms. In this vision, he's in a fortress. He sees hundreds of Knights Radiants, these ancient warriors that no longer exist, charging the fortress. The Knights all summon their legendary shard blades, drive them into the ground, and Dalinar realizes he's witnessing the day of recreance, the day the Knights abandon their oaths. Just like every vision, Dalinar hears a voice tell him, unite them. The other men in this fortress run out and start claiming the abandoned shard blades as their own, which leads to some pretty gnarly dude-on-dude violence. Dalinar then uses Navani, his brother's widow, to translate these visions, and she tries to give him a big smooch, but he is married to Alethkar and Alethkar alone. Kaladin and the lads go on another horrible bridge run. Moash tackles Kaladin, who's trying to save Denny. Denny gets trampled by a bunch of horses, and then Kaladin and Bridge 4 use their medical training to help other bridges, and they're gaining the respect of all the bridge crews. Daddy Dalinar is trying his best to unite the princedoms, and he wants to end this war with one big final push against the Parshendi, but unfortunately, everyone thinks he's crazy. High Prince Sadeas announces that someone is in fact trying to kill Elhokar, but it's not Dalinar, and he says, hey, let's do a joint plateau run on the Shattered Plains. The next plateau run, Kaladin watches as High Prince Sadeas' forces get surrounded. They're about to die. Who comes to save him? Daddy Dalinar and Prince Adolin. Is there some honor amongst the Light Eyes after all? Kaladin notices that the Parshendi go blind with rage if an Alethi touches one of their fallen dead, and Teft is officially convinced that Kaladin is a Radiant. Kaladin, in need of some alone time, stumbles across a gentleman named Wit, who seems to be far more than just a sharp tongue, and he gifts him with a magical flute. Or maybe it's just a flute. I actually don't really. Daddy Dalinar and High Prince Sadeas have a good time watching Adolin Kholin kick some butt in some duels, and it seems that Dalinar is winning over his old friend Sadeas, who even requests a copy of this Way of Kings that Dalinar is always talking about. It's clear some of the Light Eyes are doing everything they can to have Kaladin killed on the battlefield. Kaladin's not having much luck manifesting his powers despite Teft's constant lectures saying life before death, but soon he learns he can stick rocks to other objects using Stormlight. Daddy Dalinar has yet another vision where he meets the author of the Way of Kings and he witnesses the carnage after a desolation. Navani and Daddy Dalinar finally have a big smooch, and people all over Roshar are saying very strange things on their deathbed. On the next bridge run, Kaladin and Lopen reveal that they've created armor from the fallen Parshendi carapace. Furious that he's dishonored their dead, all of the Parshendi focus their attacks on Kaladin, but using Stormlight, he goes full Patches O'Houlihan and he dodges every single arrow. Exhausted, Kaladin retreats to help with some first aid. Parshendi attack him. Who comes to save him? Daddy Dalinar slices them all down, and then he salutes Bridge 4. It's pretty sick. Soon, a chasm fiend climbs one of the highest towers of the Shattered Plain, and High Prince Sadeas declares, "This is the perfect time to crush the Parshendi. Come, Dalinar. We must destroy them." Dalinar agrees, but Adolin and Navani are like, "Hey, that's cool, just remember, Sadeas is a dick." The Parshendi have beat the Alethi to the tower, but Sadeas says, "Don't worry, I'll punch a hole through their forces, you come in and sweep after," and Dalinar says, "Grand plan, Bright Lord," and they do just that. And just as it seems the day is won, Dalinar sees a huge wave of Parshendi flanking him, but he says, "No worries, High Prince Sadeas, my best buddy, he'll cut them off." High Prince Sadeas does not cut them off, for he's a dick. Sadeas has abandoned Dalinar and his forces, and they've taken all the bridges with them, the only means of escapes off of that plateau. Dalinar, Adolin, and all of the Kholin forces are now surrounded. Dalinar's forces are being picked apart. But after a rousing speech, Dalinar does what he does best, and he decides, if I'm going down, I'm going down as the Blackthorn. Sadeas continues his retreat, and Kaladin watches in horror as the Kholin army is decimated. Sadeas in his retreat has kind of forgot about Bridge 4, and Kaladin realizes this is their chance to break for freedom. No one's watching them. And just as Kaladin and Bridge 4 are about to run to freedom, Kaladin sees Syl watching Dalinar. Syl's taken on a new, larger form, and she asks, "Are windspren attracted to wind, or do they create it?" Syl was never a windspren. She was an honor spren. And that's why she's been following Kaladin all this time, because no matter how many times the Light Eyes screw him over, still his honor remains. Kaladin and Bridge 4 alone charge the plateau. Kaladin uses Stormlight to draw a wave of arrows into his shield. Flashback to Lord Amram's army, we see Kaladin fail to save his sweet little brother Tien on the battlefield. Facing insurmountable odds, Kaladin is overwhelmed with his desire to protect his boys, and there, on the battlefield, he sees his one true love, a lone spear. He grabs that spear, he snorts in the stormlight from the Parshendi's beads, and he announces the second ideal: "I will protect those who cannot protect themselves." Kaladin goes Super Saiyan. Dalinar and Adolin and their few remaining men fight their way down to Bridge 4. But a Parshendi shardbearer intercepts Dalinar. Kaladin convinces Adolin to lead his forces across the bridge, and he himself will go save Dalinar. Even exhausted, Daddy Dalinar continues to throw hands, but eventually his helm is shattered. Terrified of Super Saiyan Kaladin, the Parshendi are scattering. Kaladin pokes the Parshendi shardbearer in the leg, and he gets Dalinar to safety. Bridge 4 and the remaining Kholin forces return back to the war camp, and they are pissed. Of course, Sadeas is horrified to see Dalinar alive. But Dalinar, a man of honor, shows great restraint. Then Dalinar, the Blackthorn, trades his infamous Shardblade, Oathbringer, in exchange for Kaladin and Bridge 4. Sadeas has no choice to agree. This is a crazy deal. Then Dalinar secures his place as the greatest character in the series by absolutely beating the crap out of Elhokar and telling him, "If I wanted you dead, I could have done it myself a long time ago." And I believe that concludes The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. Storms, you yourself are a Knight Radiant if you made it this far. I think we can all agree that I didn't miss a single detail, and that was a superb recap. I don't know what happens now. I suppose I ask you to subscribe? I really don't know. I'm new here.